Okay, this is a story that we're sticking on Outnumbered. It has now gone to the new chapter. The U.S. House Oversight Committee will now investigate the mysterious deaths and disappearances of now 11 scientists. They'd all been working on high-level space or nuclear power research, and they have either died or mysteriously vanished since 2022, some with some strange similarities, like leaving their homes without phones or wallets. Committee Chairman James Comer says a new coordinated effort is underway to find the answers.
This is something that that could be very serious. We know there are many countries around the world that would love to have our knowledge and nuclear capabilities, and these are the people that were at the forefront of it, and they're either dead or missing.
Law enforcement has not drawn a link between or among any of these cases. However, the mystery is still prompting some fresh questions, like this one from our own Peter Ducey.
Do you think it's possible that some foreign spies could be scooping up our scientists to go build something?
You know, that would be the most likely explanation for a lot of this, and that's not out of the realm of possibilities. I mean, there's been activity of foreign countries interfering with whether or bringing over scientists from other countries.
Lisa, you looked at me like you were watching a movie.
That's what this feels like. It feels like we're living out some sort of sci-fi novel here or movie. We're talking about some of the most advanced scientists tied to national security. So in a large population of people, of course, deaths occur. But when you're talking about this smaller pool of highly specialized individuals in a cluster in such a short period of time, it seems a little bit more unusual. I have to read some of this information from Amy Eskridge, who is one of the scientists who allegedly died of a reported self-inflicted gunshot wound. She was on a podcast in 2020, and she was saying that she was going to disclose she had discovered some anti-gravity propulsion information, and apparently that's widely discussed by UFO researchers who have claimed this advanced technology is what allows alien spacecraft to achieve impossible speeds. So she had discovered this. She was working on this anti-gravity, novel foundational work regarding anti-gravity. She was talking about how she was being targeted both psychologically and physically as well as a result of this. She was worried about her life. And then, so she hired a British intelligence officer to help her look into some of these threats against her. And then they allege that an unknown suspect fired a directed energy weapon at her, causing burns across her body using powerful microwaves. So when you read that, I mean, it sounds insane. But yes, that's why my face was like that when you had started this show off.
Lovely as always, but shocked.
Well, yeah, because even just taking into that, what she said on the podcast, it seems insane. Yeah. But, you know, I don't know. It's pretty crazy stuff. I hope we get to the bottom of it.
Well, and Emily, this is the part that we know that we can talk about via podcasting or reporting. Imagine what we don't know, and that's what the House and the federal government want to get into.
It's such a great point that hopefully, and this is where sort of my faith lies, that all of the people who have the high-level, top-secret clearance abilities are working furiously and feverishly to discover exactly what the commonalities are, because all we see is this pattern, or what seems like a pattern. But you're absolutely right that, I mean, what they're even working on, we can't even articulate, frankly. Right. And right as you said that, I actually recently listened to, I always listen to Sean Ryan podcast, but the interview he had with a gentleman named AJ, who was the victim of one of those DEWs, and to hear the immediate and complete, total debilitating effects of one of those weapons that China and Russia have admitted having, that it took us forever to sort of admit to, but that lies in this world. It is quite easy, frankly, which is why it's totally horrifying, to debilitate someone in a way that's through a building, and is by targeted lasers and microwaves and things that, again, I can't even understand. So we should be looking at everything, because that is how we narrow down exactly what happened. And at the heart of this are 11 at least family members that lost their loved ones. So my other question is, what are the families saying? And I've noted that they seem to be pretty reticent, which to me leads more and feeds more into the pattern of they're being told to keep quiet because something.
Well, and think about it. I mean, we don't know how many of these people are truly dead. There are some who have vanished, who are missing right now. So if you are thinking that you can get your family member back, you're going to be even more cautious. The government doesn't have to tell you to keep your mouth shut. You know that going on television is not going to help you. get your loved one back, likely. Rosanna?
Well, I'm sure they're worried about their own safety, right?
Double.
And listen, I love a good conspiracy theory. And I think the FBI and all those agencies should investigate. But when you kind of look at all these people that vanished, they're spread across different agencies and institutions working in different specialties like astrophysics and pharmaceuticals. So they don't exactly work
Some were in the same lab, though.
Some work in the same lab, but some of them don't work
In the same lab. That's more than a coincidence.
They're not all direct. I love a good conspiracy theory. Let the FBI
I hear what you're
investigate.
saying. I hear what
I'm
you're
not
saying.
totally jumping into this yet.
Well, one of the victims here, and I call them victims because, well, they would be a victim of something
Right.
because they're not with us right now. But one who's missing went away without a cell phone, without all these items, and he'd been complaining of symptoms of brain fog in the recent days before he vanished. So I hear what you're saying. There could be a whole host of reasons. It doesn't have to be a conspiracy theory to know that you don't all have to work in the same room.
Right.
In order for something to be connected. That's why I've pitched a task force at a very high level to take a look at this and cull what all those different authorities and investigators and local communities are pulling together.
Yeah, so shark attacks and ice cream sales are on the same bell curve. They go up at the same time, they come down at the same time. And that sounds like, wow, there must be some connection there. And then you find out sunshine, that's the connection. People buy ice cream when they go to the beach, right? So that time of year is when they spike and they come back down. There's a correlation there. There's a missing element we don't see when we get just that information. That's a part of this. There's a great little diagram here that shows how unconnected they are. And so you have to take that into account. What really notches this up, because most of them, like Nuno Loureiro, I know I'm messing that up, and I am no disrespect whatsoever. That's an MIT professor, had a background in the same sciences, but not necessarily a connection. He was killed by the Brown shooter, and you find out they were classmates together. Now, we could say we don't know near enough about the Brown shooter because I haven't heard much, and that was the entire incident was very odd, the way that certain cameras were turned off. And so there's a lot of those things that create questions. But then you go into the list, and it's really the ones that are missing. And so like Monica Reza went missing on a hike. Her friend saw her wave, and then they never saw her again. They never found the body. You have William Neal, the general, someone you think would have good control over, like he would probably plan out a hike, right? He left everything sitting on the table, went on a hike, which I guess he was known to do, never found again. Then you have, Melissa Cassius. She was an administrative assistant, so she wasn't an engineer or a doctorate. She was an administrative assistant. It's disputable how much access she had to what, and she literally just went missing last seen walking down a road without her keys or anything. Those mysteries are what makes all of this more interesting. And then there are, I think, at least one unsolved murder. So it's the fact, it's not just that they're missing and dead, it's how they went missing and died that people, and we should be looking into it for no other reason than our own national security.
Yeah.
You know what administrative assistants have visibility into, though? Scheduling.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying she
What
didn't
meetings did
know.
that person have? Like, what calls were they taking
And
from what
emails.
foreign assets?
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.